K&L Gates and Middletons have just merged to form a truly global law firm with over 2,000 lawyers sitting in 47 offices around the globe. And joining me to discuss is Peter Kalis, who's the Global Managing Partner and Chairman, and Nick Nicola, who's the Managing Partner of Australia for K&L Gates. Gentlemen, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome, Kate.
Now, gentlemen, you're both leaders of a truly large global ship. What do you think makes a good leader in today's business world?
What I see in leaders who others might describe as being reasonably effective at what they do is the ability to be able to surround themselves with people that actually make them look good. Certainly I've always tried to do that. I always figure if I can have the people that can actually do the job for me, that makes it so much easier. But it's really just a question of being disciplined, being able to articulate the vision, if you like, the journey to ultimately some sort of goal, then being in a position where you can be disciplined enough to ensure that everybody in the organisation continues to remember that that's what we've all agreed to, that's what we've all signed up for.
And Peter, looking at the Asia Pacific region, are you seeing any trends or challenges or issues that your clients are facing?
Well, although Australia has largely not felt the brunt of it in the last 5 years, much of the rest of the world, not so much Asia, not so much China and South, have had a tumultuous time with the global financial crisis, and I'd call it a roller coaster, except we're still waiting for the uptick. So it was a collapse followed by a plateau with some trending up. Then our clients faced the sovereign debt crisis and the impact on financial markets, largely centered in Europe. So the question we have is not to take too much for granted about the splendid growth that the last 5 years have seen in the Asia Pacific market. Our clients are being cautious. The client community has taken great instruction from what happened in the rest of the world. They're being cautious. We have to position ourselves cautiously, conservatively, not lean too far over our skis, as it were.
Peter, where do you see Australia and Asia over the next decade as the global economy continues to evolve?
I'm old enough to remember 1992 when the UK threw in its lot with Europe, which must have been very disorienting for a lot of Commonwealth countries, including Australia. Australia, I think, brilliantly redefined its self-view, redefined its external image as part of the Asia Pacific region. And it's worked out, I think, very, very well. I mean, how many years of consecutive positive GDP growth? To what extent was the global financial crisis felt in Australia? It was mainly a headline in a newspaper that related to other parts of the world. This is all traceable back to this reorientation of Australia toward the Asia Pacific region. And I think sometimes people in Australia don't feel as positively about that historically profound shift, that paradigmatic shift. It was aligning public policy in Australia with the realities of the emergent 21st century. Now, to answer your question, it's not just the next 10 years. I may not subscribe to the view of the Asian century any more than I subscribe to the view that the 20th century was the American century. The world is too integrated, too interdependent. But let's just say the Asia Pacific region will be, along with one or two other parts of the world, the key dynamic in how we succeed as peoples in the 21st century along a whole spectrum of behaviors: innovation, economic growth, urbanization, healthcare, the environment, and the impact on global climate, a lot of both the challenges and the solutions will be traceable to the Asia-Pacific region, and it should be.
Peter, are there any worries and concerns that are common to a number of your clients?
I wouldn't say that there's a single overarching item, but one aspect that you tend to hear time and time again, and again, I'm not expert on Australia, but you certainly hear it in the US. I spend a good deal of time in Europe. You hear it in Europe. And that is, it would sure be nice if our politicians, at the very least, got out of the way to genuine economic growth, and instead of obstructing clients from doing what they do best, growing their businesses, actually promoted that behavior. That would have beneficial impact on clients from all sectors, beneficial impact on the unemployment rate, beneficial impact on our future prospects in all of our both mature and emerging nations. So I hear a lot of complaining about politicians.
We as the lawyers, our clients who are in business, we can't control necessarily what governments will do. What we do know though is, and this is a phenomenon I think that is a global phenomenon, governments are increasingly intruding on trade, increasingly intruding on businesses' ability to perform its functions. And that is not a phenomenon that will go away anytime soon. If anything, and if history is anything to go by, it will just increase. So part of what we as legal advisors need to be able to do is navigate through the legislation, through the regulations, through that whole maze of government intervention on business. And we see that in the region, not just in Australia, but certainly in the Asia-Pacific region. If you look at India, if you look at China, Korea, Indonesia, all of these economies are very, very heavily regulated economies.
And Nick, of course, we've got the federal election fast approaching. What would you like to see in a new leader, regardless of which side of politics they sit on?
I would just like to have someone who demonstrates some leadership. I think, look, it's a difficult question to answer. My personal view is that the level of political debate in this country, frankly, Kate, has been just appalling in the last few years. I mean, I don't think it's political debate at all. They don't appear to debate the issues. They don't appear to be concerned about the issues. This sort of 24/7 news cycle, soundbite grabs that everyone seems to be concerned about. These endless polls. I mean, I would just like to have a government in Canberra that actually leads, and that actually has the interests of the business community, the social fabric of the nation genuinely at heart, and can demonstrate some true leadership and say, look, these are our policies, this is why we have these policies, and paint some sort of vision for us.
Nick, increasing innovation and productivity are challenges for Australia's future growth and prosperity. How do you see businesses meeting those challenges?
If anyone really had the answer to the question, I think they'd be ordained or something, but I suspect that for businesses in particular in our region, this is going to be challenging times for quite some time yet. I think we've seen, as a result of the global financial crisis, I think we've seen a lot of businesses reset their expectations. We've seen tensions, certainly within Australia, between employers as such and the workforce. We've seen the problems that our current, I hate to keep harking back to sort of the political sphere as being such an issue for us, but I think it is. We have a minority government, which is never a good thing. It therefore is a little impotent. As you know, we have an election that was announced some weeks ago now. It's on September 14. It seems a lifetime away. Our experience is that a lot of our clients, a lot of businesses in the business community, are not so much paralysed, but they're not actually doing a great deal because people just don't know what the landscape will look like post the election. I think all of those challenges make it very difficult for businesses, in particular in Australia at the moment.
Nick, I'd like to get your view on the economic outlook for Australia and Asia.
I think most commentators are of the view that we are in the Asian century and that there are tremendous economic growth opportunities throughout the Asia-Pacific region. And we see, as a result of this merger with K&L Gates, we see that the firm is now wonderfully well positioned to take full advantage of whatever the next 50 to 100 years brings upon us.
Well, Nick and Peter, some really interesting insights there. Thank you so much for giving me your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.